maybe have a little bit of fun.
Sure,
I'm
we
not.
all do, right?
How can you not when you have a muscle car? Welcome back to Christina's Garage Gearhead in Training. I'm here with Dave from QA1, and we're going to learn a little bit more about shocks and suspension today.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for stopping by. One of the things that people come up all the time and talk to us about is, where do you start? Like in a sea of suspension, from control arms to shocks to forelinks to anything in between, where do you start? Is that a question that you commonly get faced with too?
I haven't, because I'm not experienced as much right now, so I don't really get those questions. Although if I didn't have suspension to start with, that would have been my first one, like where, because I don't have wheels and tires that I'm going to be using yet. I just put a brand new with SpeedTech Performance. I have their new subframe. I don't have any engine or anything in it. I don't know how it's going to sit when it has all the weight. And even just putting it together, I don't even know how I'm going to adjust everything after the weight's in.
Yeah, these are all wonderful questions, right? And so what we typically do is we start with understanding what is the vehicle going to be used for, right? That's the first thing. Is it going to be a street car? Is it going to be a race car? What are you doing with it, right? So with that as kind of a basis, we can start to look at what those upgrade items might be. One of the things I always look at, whether it's a street car or a race car, is shocks are going to make or break either your ride quality or the performance on the track. So shocks control the movement of the suspension when you hit bumps in the road, or it controls the weight transfer as you're at the racetrack. And if you don't have good shocks, that's an obvious place to start. And the beautiful thing about QA1 and a lot of suspension types is you can add the shocks and still use your stock control arms, use your stock axle, things like that. So it's a really great place to start and start seeing some major benefits.
I have the coilovers in the front, and then I have the leaf springs in the back with the QA1s. Are they shocks that go with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
When determining what you want to do, how do you figure that out then? Like, so you for me, I'm going to be driving just on the street, maybe have a little bit of fun.
Sure,
I'm
we
not.
all do, right?
How can you not when you have a muscle car?
Of course. You got to spin the tires every now and then.
So where do I start if someone is in my position, they don't have suspension yet? They're like, okay, well, I want to do daily driver, be able to have a little bit of fun with it. Where would they start with suspension? Yeah,
so from a shock absorber standpoint, one of the things that I often look at is find a shock that has some adjustment feature to it. And what I mean by adjustment is the QA1 shocks, as an example, have a small knob on it. You turn it to the left to soften up your ride quality. You turn it to the right and you can make it stiffer. And that works really well because that gives you that flexibility to, like you said, have the balance of cruising around, dial it up nice and tight if you want to go rip through some corners, but it gives you a lot of versatility, right? Depending on your suspension type, like you said, you had coilovers, now you're talking ride height adjustability. So earlier you're talking about, I'm not sure where it's going to sit, I don't have my wheel and tire combination figured out yet. These are all very common challenges that a lot of people face. And what I oftentimes do is look at a coilover as a way to give you that flexibility down the road to really set it wherever you want. So that helps a ton.
When I get it all set up, when I have the engine and everything in it and put the suspension on it, that's when you start adjusting it? Like, do you drive and then adjust as you go?
Yeah, so once you get it to close to final weight, right, so you want to get your engine and transmission in, get your hood back on, fill it up with fluids, your battery. Think about all those things that by themselves don't feel significant, but 20 pounds at a time, times 10 times, like you start adding significant weight to the front, or the rear for that matter, right? So get it close to final weight, then set your ride height. A lot of people, they'll take it out for a drive then and really start to work on the suspension. In reality, you won't see a ton of change, right? Like there's some theories that your suspension will settle over time. It really doesn't move a ton, but that final weight is really key for it. But then it gets into the fun stuff. Once your ride height's set, then you tune it for either that comfort or performance. And that's my favorite part of the build, right? You have this car that you just got done building, and now you're experiencing for the first time, how does it feel, right? And that can be challenging for people too. It's like, where do I start? I got 18 clicks on my knobs, I can turn them any which way. What's the right way to do it? I oftentimes will find a stretch of road that's a couple miles long that has some bumps, some straight sections, some twisty curves, and I use that as my test road, right? So I go full soft, go drive that road. And I kind of take some mental notes and cues of how did it feel over the bumps, how did it feel over the corners, and how to handle. And then I stop and I just reach underneath the car and you can just turn that knob to the full stiff, run it back. And you will be shocked at the difference.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended, right? But seriously though, you will go from being like floating to as stiff as a go-kart. But then that's when you can start to back it off and find that happy medium that you like, where you have that comfort and that compliance, but it also handles really well. But find that stretch of road 2 miles long that you can drive back and forth, so that you're not driving a big circle and you don't get that back-to-back feedback on the same thing you just did.
When you're turning too, you're having other things that,
totally.
that come into it as
well.
well.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's a really fun part of the build is really now starting to dial in for your liking, right? And everybody has a different preference, right? The reason they're adjustable is because what you like and what I like and what tire you run and what tire I run and what, there's so many variables that you have to do that, right? And we give you that adjustment so that you can find that perfect balance.
If someone's looking to get QA1 on their vehicle and they want help with those decisions, what's the best way to get in contact with you guys?
Couple things. So, like you, we have tons of resources on our YouTube channel answering questions like this and many others. But ultimately, call us, right? We have a great tech team, and you'll be amazed. With 5 minutes on the phone with us talking about what you're trying to accomplish, we'll kind of put together some recommendations for you. Won't go crazy with it. We'll kind of be, respectful to what your build goals are. And trust me, we can go mild to wild, but we'll build you a package kind of custom tailored for what you need.
I love that, because as you said, everybody's car is different, so being able to customize it is super important.
Exactly, yep.
Well, thank you so much, Dave.
Yes,
I really
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming by.
And if you guys want to subscribe to my channel, please do so. And also, I'm going to put all of their information, so if you guys want to connect with them, follow their YouTube, you can do that as well. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.